Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Rachel Klein and I will be your presenter here for the next 20 minutes. Today we're going to be talking about using the report designer in membership specifically. So we're going to kind of go through some different features in the report designer, what those features are, what they do, and then I'm also going to show you a little bit of an example as well. I'm using one of our workbooks for this. I'm using the Membership 205 workbook, pages 2 through 9. If you don't have this workbook, this one is really beneficial for utilizing the report designer. It goes through and it points out the different features. So if you're interested in building reports in membership and maybe even customizing your donation statements, this will work for that as well. I would recommend this workbook. It's the Membership 205 workbook, pages 2 through 9. All right, let's go ahead and get started here. So on page 2, just a quick overview about using the report designer. The report designer is going to come into play in membership specifically with a custom report and then with the directory. Okay, so I'm going to go pull up membership here. And when you run a report through membership, there's a step 1 and then there's a step 2, which we talked about in webinar, I think last month. Step 1 is going to be your criteria or who you're wanting to see specifically on your report, okay? So this is where you put in those people that you want to make up the criteria, whether it's a status code of active or an age range, birth date range, marital status, whatever it might be. You can even do giving and pledging if you have donations. Whatever that might be, you're going to do that here on step 1. So step 1 is your who. Okay, it's also your sort tab. Sort tab's really important. This is where you set the order that you want those people to print out in. I'm going to go ahead and just choose alphabetical for now. But step 2, that's where we're focusing today. Step 2 is the layout. This is where you build the report for the information that you want to see for those people that met your criteria back on step 1. Okay, so the report designer is going to come into play with 2 different layouts or formats. It's going to come into play with a custom report format and then also the directory report format. Now, custom and directory are different in that custom is going to create a listing for each person that meets the criteria. Okay, so if you go with custom, you are going to see a bunch of templates in here. These are all the custom ones that we include with Church Windows. And if you go to directory, it's also going to include all those same templates. Okay, layouts are both going to be there, but the difference is between custom and directories. Custom creates a line for each individual person that meets the criteria. Right? Directory, though, goes in and only pulls those people whose include on directory is set to yes, which is a field in people. So if that box is checked, that include on directory field, then those people are going to show up on this report. Okay? That's one of the biggest differences between custom and directory. Custom pulls everybody. Directory only pulls those people who have that check mark to include on directory. The other difference is directory is going to automatically look at those people who are set to be included, and then it's going to lump them together as a family. Okay, so again, custom is going to give you those individual listings. Directory is going to take everybody that makes up that household and people, and it's going to put them together and give you a directory format. Okay. That's the biggest difference there. So let's go down and look at, based on the book, it wants us to look at the horizontal classic directory. It's a template. Everybody has this in their Church Windows. I'm going to choose that and I'm going to hit print just so you can see real quick what that's going to look like. So horizontal, it's going to print the information across the page. And as you can see, it's grouping people together based on who makes up their family in the people section. So the Bernard family, Evan's the primary, Nikki's the secondary, and these are their 2 kids, Stuart and Eric. Here is their address, and then here is their family phone number, okay? That is your classic horizontal directory. Now, if we close out of here and we hit the edit button, that's where the report designer is going to open. And that's what we're focusing on today, okay? So there's several different sections here within the report designer that I want to point out to you. The first one is the report header, which is up here. And the report header section will appear at the top of the first page only. Okay, so report header is only going to appear at the top of your very first page of your report. Then you have your page header. The page header will appear at the top of each page of your report. Okay, so for this report header section on the top of every page is going to give us the organizational name, the city, the state, along with the date it was printed, the wording church directory, and then the page numbers up in the top right. And this is just for this layout. I'll show you where you can customize this in a minute. The detail section, anything placed in the detail section will appear once for each person meeting the criteria entered. So the detail section, this is where we are going to see this information repeated or reiterated for every person that meets the criteria for the report. And in this instance, since we're doing a directory, it'll show this for every family set to show on the directory. Then you have the children's report. The children's report section is specifically made to show information for kids that make up or that are part of the family. All right, so there's two different ways you can show kids information. If you decide to go with this children's report section, which also has a header and a footer in it, this is going to show you information specifically for each child that makes up the family. So for instance, if you put age in here, you want to see every kid's age, it is going to show the age on each line separately for each kid that makes up that family that has an age. If you put age up in here, it'll just list the age in the same field with a comma or a semicolon between each option, or between each age. So it's really up to you. If you want more detailed information showing for your children, then I would recommend going with this children's report section. If you want to see an example of the two differences, go ahead and drop it in the question section and I'll get back to it after when we do the Q&A. You have a detail footer. Detail footer will appear at the end of the individual or family's information before moving on to display the next individuals. So detail footer is still part of this detail section. Then you have your report footer, which will appear at the bottom of the last page of the report. And then you have the page footer, which will appear at the bottom of each page of the report. Okay, so just a quick overview of what the different sections are that make up the report designer. All right, I'm going to close out of here and I am going to start with a from scratch directory. So I'm going to go ahead and hit new right here. So after you choose directory, hit the new button. You can specify if you want portrait, landscape. You can also adjust your paper. And then we're just going to type in test for webinar. And what I want to do next, so we're on page 5 now, is I want to go through all the different options over here that you have within your toolbox. Okay, a lot of different things over here on the right. Some are pretty straightforward, some I'm going to take a minute to explain. Over here on the right, you have your pointer. If your mouse ever changed to something other than your pointer while you're editing or working in a report, simply hit the pointer and that's going to bring it back to you. Okay, so you can go and click on something else. Then you also have a membership field. So we're going to come down here into our membership field, and I'm going to drag one over here and just drop it. You have a couple different ways of getting a membership field on your report. I like to click and hold on membership field, and while still holding, drag it over and drop it where I want it. That's one way to do it. You can also double click on a membership field and then you specify what information you're wanting, and then it'll automatically pop into the detail section. It's up to you how you do it. I'm more of a drag and dropper. But as soon as I drop it, I have to specify what information I want to see in that said membership field. Okay, so if we drag and drop a membership field over, first thing we have to do is pick it. If you scroll through this list all of the different fields that you have set up in your membership are going to be available for you to select to then be displayed in said field. Okay, so I'm going to come down here and I'm just going to choose name first last. As soon as I select it and say OK, the membership field is then going to appear with the information that I picked that I want to show in that field. Okay, pretty straightforward. That's a membership field. There are so many different options in here for membership field. As soon as you drop it, really scroll through. You have a section for current address, family, individual, alternate address fields, and then all of your personal information fields. So this is where you're going to get your address, your birthdays, your cell phones, your emails, and so forth. That's all going to be in here. Okay. Let's just choose cell phone for now. There's my cell phone field, okay? I'm just going to put it right there for now for an example. So membership fields allow you to pick the different information that you want to display for that person, all right? Next thing, top of page 6, it's talking about organization information fields. This one is pretty straightforward. If I grab an organization information field and I drop it here, let's say I want to put it in my page header. Again, as soon as I drop it, I have to tell the software what information I wish to see in that field. All right, this is going to be all the information that was initially entered when you set up your software. All right, so this is going to be your church name, your phone number, the city, state, zip code, fax, email, whatever you've put in there in that organization information section of Church Windows, you're able to pull that information out and use it in the report itself. So a lot of people when building a report, they like to put the church information across the top in the page header, and then it'll always show at the top of each page that makes up your report, as long as you put it in the header. If you put it up here at the top in the report header, then it's only going to print on the first page. So page header, report header. All right, so that's the organization information field. Let's move down to personalized label. Personalized label is really, really beneficial when you need to add a label to a specific field. So for example, if you want to add cell phone here, and you would like a box to show in front of it that says Bob's cell phone or Betty's cell phone, so you know whose cell phone in that family it belongs to, you want to make sure you use a personalized label. So that's over here on the right. Again, I'm just going to click and hold and bring it over here and drop it. And I need to type in this field what it's labeling. Okay, so there's two ways to do that. You can double click on the field itself and it'll highlight the text, allowing you to type in email. I always like to add a colon at the end too. You don't have to, but I like to do that. And then you can also come in here, select the field, hit this little right facing arrow. That's going to open up your label tasks, and it's going to then allow you to, if you decide you want to type in like email address, for example, you can do that as well. Okay, it is up to you which information you want to show. Just click off within the personalized label. So if we were to print this report right now, it would say Bob's email address. Okay, it would automatically input the person's name because we're using a personalized label. All right. Now let's go on to page 7. Let's say that I want these two fields to get a little closer together. I want it to be tighter. I don't want this space between. Let me hit the preview right here at the bottom so you can see what I'm referring to. So if I leave those fields as it is, let's go down here to David. It says David's email address, then it has a huge space, and then it actually lists what the field is, what the membership field is. So I don't want this to say email address. I want it to say cell phone, because this is a cell phone field. Let's say I want this space between the two fields to be tighter. I want this phone number to move all the way back over here. Okay. Go back into your designer and you're going to use something called a field connector, which is over here on the right side. This is that purpley colored field. If you've been in the designer before at all, you've seen this. On my screen it looks purple. Some people say it looks kind of blue. But what we're going to do is actually put these two fields, the personalized label and the field that's actually displaying what the cell phone is, we're going to put those both within the field connector. Okay, as soon as you do that, let's go back to our preview. The program is automatically going to add the appropriate spacing in there for each person. Okay, so field connectors are really great if you're using a personalized label and then a membership field and you want things to be spaced together appropriately. Okay. So let's talk about some other things in here as well. You have an option for a blank line. So if you have somewhere in the report that you're building that you want to force a space, say you want to force a space between some different fields, you want to leave some room, maybe you want to scratch some notes in there, whatever that might be, you do have the option here to use this blank line field, which is really handy. Summary information is also really helpful. Let me drag this over and I'm going to put it down in the footer here. Summary information is going to show you, see if it'll pop up down here. Here we go. Summary information is going to give you a summary of the report that you've ran. So along with the count of how many people met the criteria that you used, it's also going to reiterate criteria. So this is going to include members and visitors. So if you say ran a report that was status code equal to active out-of-town member, it would then reiterate that criteria down at the bottom here in the summary section. I really like including that summary information on reports because you can then refer back to it. Say you want to run this report again in a year. If you have that summary information included down at the bottom, it's going to give you that criteria to then rebuild that report later. So you can using the same criteria, but maybe in a year your membership has fluctuated a little bit. Including that summary information will let you rebuild that report so then you can compare the two, which is really nice. Let's talk about label. Label is simply a text box. So if you're used to working in Word or maybe even Publisher, you can drag and drop a label over here, and then you can type in whatever you want to show here. So it's basically just a text field. All right, oops, not file. There we go. And this will allow you to type in whatever you want. So this is really nice. Say you have something that you just want to use as a label and you want it to repeat for everybody, you can simply use just that label field and type in any characters that you wish. Logo or image, this is also really important here as well. This is useful if you want to include say you want to include your church logo on your report. This is really nice. If I drag and drop it over here, this allows you, by hitting the little label tasks arrow, you can come in here, hit this little dot, 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 and then you can browse down to your PC and select a photo. I helped somebody make a really, really pretty donation statement using the same designer, and we uploaded a couple different images from their church logo and kind of dressed up the report. So you can do that with this logo or image option. You also have a full width line. Say you want to put a band between each person. You could pop this line in. Get rid of these before we get too cluttery. And then in the preview, that's going to add a nice solid line across the report. So you have a lot of data you're sifting through. You want a hard line there so you can see where the next person starts. There's a full width line. You also have a horizontal line option. You have some options for different shapes if you wish to include that. I don't see too many people utilizing that, but you have the option. Page information as well. This can be really handy. You have a bunch of different options in here and label tasks. You can include the number of pages, just simply the number. You can also put in the date and time, the username who is building the report, or a total. So page information, another option there for you. And then you have the option to put in borders as well. Not too terribly many people use that, but it's there for customizing if you want it.